Good evening. Welcome to the, what day is today? December 20th Abington Finance Committee meeting, December 20th, 2023. We are continuing our series of meetings preparing for the fiscal year 25 budget, which is in prep for our early April town meeting. Tonight, we have an agenda in which we will meet with the assessor's office and the police department, and then we'll go over our usual business of correspondence, liaison reports, meeting minutes, and discussing our next meeting. So I'm going to get right to it. We have Jolanta Brissett with it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Griffith.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah.
Welcome. Glad to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
If you want to kind of go through your highlights.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. The Assessors Department mission is each year to appraise all real and personal property, to determine the market values using sales analysis, market trends, and income and expense analysis. We have income approach, sales approach, and cost approach to value the properties. Each year we establish the annual tax levy. This year we were at 48 million. We also assist residents applying for appropriate relief through the exemption process. So our mission is to help the taxpayers. Achievements this year were we got the real and personal property values certified early for fiscal year 24. We set the tax rate in a timely manner. The tax rate is $13.38 per thousand. Abatements filed and resolved in fiscal year 23. We had 28 of those, which is not a lot for almost 6,000 parcels. We resolved some ATB cases. We don't have a lot either. We only have like 5 or 6. And this week I got a notice that which one is they're gonna withdraw Enstar. I'm sorry. Yeah. Blank.
What? Sorry, just quickly. What is an ATB?
Appellate tax board. So if somebody files for an abatement in the month of January and the Board of Assessors denies the application, they have 30 days to file at the appellate tax.
Okay.
And then it takes a few months, and then there's a hearing with a commissioner. Usually it's through Zoom these days. We used to have to go to Boston, but now it's through Zoom. And
I just want to make sure. So National Grid filed an appeal on their taxes?
Yeah, it's been going on for years, and now they are,
They're dropping it,
yes,
so they'll pay it.
correct.
They won't get they've already paid, right?
Yes, they
They
won't.
won't get, the
No.
rebate.
Yeah. So our goals are to continue providing service, exceptional service to residents and businesses. We're trying to digitalize our records. We have so much paper in our office that we're scanning everything and trying to digitalize it so we don't have all the paper. We're trying to educate the public on understanding the aspects of our office. A lot of taxpayers don't understand the excise abatement process. When they buy a new car, you pay a sales tax, but they don't understand that there is also an excise tax. I had somebody come in today who bought an $80,000 truck, and his excise was almost $1,800, and he's like, I'm not paying it. So trying to educate the taxpayers on the excise process and maintain regular communication with Scott.
Nice. Anyone have questions before we go into line by line?
Excellent.
excellent highlights.
Okay. Any,
And this is our excellent highlights by making Michelle Taft's position full-time. Thank you very much for approving that. We are saving over $13,000 since we will be doing our own building permits. We were paying Vision Government Solutions, which is our vendor, to do our building permits, but they were using consultants from Connecticut, Rhode Island. They had no idea what they were in town. And they would do the job, we would pay them, but then we would have to go back out and do it ourselves. So that worked out really good.
nice.
Can I, savings of the, thanks to the IT staff member, what,
Full-time.
It's an FT.
Full-time.
oh,
We
Jesus.
moved a staff, we moved a
I'm like,
staff member.
okay, yeah, it's like a-
Part-time to full-time last.
We
in
saved
current
expense,
year.
but it went into
Nothing.
salary. It's not like we saved the money.
Correct.
No, but we did get, I think the value of what we're getting now,
Yeah, no, I'm not,
is well worth it.
Yeah.
I see salary go up.
And
Yep.
she's not taking benefits, she does not need health care, insurance. So, yeah, that was a really smart decision. Yeah. So here we are, deputy assessor, that's me. I get 2.5%, I work 35 hours. Jody, chief clerk, bookkeeper, they go by steps based on the union contract. And here's the clerk, that's Michelle. She's 32 hours.
Excellent.
So we have the salaries, like I mentioned, sick leave incentive, health insurance incentive for Michelle. She does not take health insurance. Senior worker benefit and veterans, that's something you did, Andrew, right? You
Yeah, so-
needed,
When seniors and veterans come to volunteer, we give them a break on their taxes. However, the federal government considers that income, so we're on the hook for the employer side of benefits. So that's what those appropriations are for.
Okay.
okay, and then, our account number, account name, and the expense. We have education and training, other professional and technical, that's where the vision
Yep.
savings comes in. Assessors postage comes out of a different account now, Andrew?
Yes.
Yep. Office supplies, fuel comes out of a different account. Car maintenance, other supplies such as measuring tapes, stuff that we need in the field. Travel for the conferences, we no longer, everything's pretty much Zoom, so we no longer go out and stay at places. And then the dues and fees is for keeping up certification and, keeping up certification and for the Board of Assessors to keep up their certification. So, then at the bottom is the department totals. So it's pretty simple.
Anyone have questions?
Just one question on, who you had mentioned earlier about continue the process of digitizing our records. How far along are you on that? And what other resources might you need to get that done?
We are about 60% done. Whenever we have free time, we just start scanning and putting it into the system. So it all depends what time of the year. We have quiet times, we have busy times, so. But we plugging along,
Okay.
yeah.
And you have the right equipment you need to do that?
Oh, yeah,
Good.
yeah, definitely. Just takes a scanner and working computer,
Time
and time,
and patience.
and patience.
Anyone else? Excellent, everything looks really good.
Okay, thank you
so
very
much for your
much.
time.
Thank
Happy
you very
holidays,
much.
everyone.
Yes, you too.
Happy holidays.
Happy New Year.
Enjoy the Feast
Thank
of the
you.
Fishes.
Yes.
See you
Feel free to
tomorrow.
bring a cupcake for the ride
Oh,
home.
no, thank you.
The party gift.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Next up, we have our police department, Chief David Del Papa. Coming up and joining us. Chief, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Doing well.
Easy to read.
We always love easier to read.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Ready when you
Whenever you are.
are. All right. We'll start off with the mission statement. The Abington Police Department's mission is to work collaboratively with the citizens of Abington towards providing a safe environment and enhancing the quality of life consistent with the values of the community. The Abington Police Department will accomplish this mission by providing dedicated police officers of high integrity, honesty, morals, and trustworthiness who are committed to protecting the constitutional rights of all, establishing solid partnerships between the community, its residents, and this department. In doing so, the Abington Police Department will be guided by its core values of honesty, integrity, respect, and compassion. Under achievements, I have several grants that the department was awarded this year. Received $27,000 from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security under the Municipal Road Safety Program to purchase handheld LiDAR units and fund traffic-related training and enforcement efforts, specifically pedestrian and bicycle safety. We received $1,300 from the MED project, the Department of Public Health, Mental Health, to cover the costs associated with taking back and disposing of unwanted medications. We also received a grant for $90,000 from the Department of Mental Health to cover the costs associated with a mental health clinician's co-response to calls involving persons having mental health crisis, to help with policy development and behavioral health-related training for the department's offices. $50,000 was awarded from the Small Rural Travel Body Worn Camera Grant Program, it's a mouthful, to cover the costs associated with purchasing body-worn cameras, training, and video storage. We had another $50,000 grant from the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security to purchase 4 flock camera systems and cover the cost associated with the maintenance, training, and hardware. And finally, $32,000 approximately awarded from EOPS for critical incident stress management to cover the cost associated with mental health clinician services for officers, training and equipment for the department's Comfort Dog, and training and resources for officers in critical incident stress management. The goals for the department for the next year.
That just says, those amounts that you're mentioning, are those for FY '24?
They were received this year.
So will they
2023.
be applied against,
Since July, so fiscal year '24.
I believe so.
okay.
And these are, I'm guessing, these are somewhat outside of your budget items.
Yes. Oh,
So fiscal year is almost a little not relevant with these, like when the grant comes in, we spend the grant.
Yeah, there are certain timelines for spending different grants.
So,
Oh, quick question.
does that
Oh,
That
did
cover
that
your
answer
question?
yours?
Well, I was just trying to understand, like, so we get these grants, but is this an offset to anything in a budget, or are these
No.
above?
Above.
Okay.
Flock cameras, flock cameras.
So the flock cameras, a couple of the surrounding cities and towns have them. What they do is they're uploaded with plate information, and what you'll be able to do is they're uploaded with a hot list for stolen vehicles, wanted vehicles, and they assist criminal investigations. They'll read the license plates of vehicles that go by, so if you're looking for a missing person or a wanted person, if the community has a flock camera, it'll register and hit, and you'll be able to figure out where they're going and at what times.
Is that something that goes in the cruiser, or is it something that you place in the community?
No, these are mobile systems by themselves. Some are mobile, some are fixed.
And then just I'm guessing that the LiDAR units are radar, handheld radar?
Yeah, similar to, they use a laser beam instead of frequency waves.
Technology.
Just one, so these grants though, so do they create an expectation going forward that could turn into an expense for us? So like you've got, body cameras. You get, does that, now that you have that and they've been paid for, we need those in our budget going forward. Is that expected?
You could incur additional costs for the storage going forward. Although we were awarded that grant for the body-worn cameras, there's still a lot of hoops we have to jump through to get those implemented, specifically collective bargaining.
So I think Paul's question is more, does it create a point in the future when we need to replace the body cameras and there isn't grant money to replace them?
There could be. There could be.
But that's also,
That's-
though, that's a piece of equipment that will be eventually a required piece of equipment. So to be able to start getting those through grant money
Yeah.
is, a benefit to us. And when I say required, I mean all throughout the Commonwealth, everybody will have to
Yeah.
wear them.
Just kind of as an example for what Paul's talking about, when we built the new school, part of the budget with the new school was laptops for each of the students. As we go through, we have to replace the laptops and give new laptops to new classes as they come in and that type of thing. So it created kind of a revolving expense. It was a necessary one, and like you said, it was really good to have that initial thing covered by something else. But it did create a revolving expense. So those are the kind of things that we need to
That
make
would
sure
have
we
been
account
created
for
either
in
way,
the
though.
future for whenever you're gonna need to be replacing the cameras, we'll need to factor that into things.
And obviously maintenance costs.
Yep, that too.
That maybe less. That means you shouldn't do it.
So our goals for the next year, continue to provide a safe environment and enhance the quality of life for the residents of Abington and its visitors. Continue to hire and staff the department with quality and dedicated individuals committed to bettering this community. And continue to provide the department's officers with cutting-edge training and the support services they need to meet the community's demands and challenges. If you flick to the next page, I just have the current staffing levels for the department. 25 sworn, 3 civilian, breaks down to 15 officers, 6 sergeants. They're all assigned to different patrol shifts at this time. We still have 2 part-time dispatchers, both work 2 days a week. We have 2 officers assigned to the schools, and 1 sergeant currently assigned to the courthouse. And then administration is made up of Deputy Chief Sullivan, myself, my administrative assistant, and then we have a records access officer and a part-time administrative aide. Currently, we have 3 empty positions, a lieutenant's position, a sergeant's position, and 3 officers' positions.
Is that 5 empty positions?
Yes.
Just checking. I did major in math, so I'm good with those things.
Just to highlight, we're currently in the final process of hiring a deputy chief. Our current deputy chief, Deputy Sullivan, he anticipates retiring sometime this summer. So we're getting ahead of that process. We're in the final phase. Should be an assessment center and then interview with myself and the town manager after that. We anticipate to hire the new deputy chief somewhere around the end of February, beginning of March, if all goes well. And finally, the 3 new officers we just hired that came out of the academy, they all finished their field training, and they're all on patrol solo now. Quickly, I'll touch on the.
Can I just ask on the count, so you have 25 sworn, so this, and then you've got, so the current empty positions, lieutenant, sergeant, 3 officers, are those in that 25? Or is it,
No,
okay.
right, Andrew?
Those were your vacant positions?
Those are my vacant positions.
Are those vacant and budgeted for in FY '24?
So, under police highlights on page 3, the packet that Andrew prepared, we had 25 budgeted for fiscal year '23, but we had to remove 3 to pay for the contract. We had 7 sergeants budgeted, but we removed 1 position to help pay for the contract. And same thing for the lieutenant. We had 1 lieutenant budgeted, but we removed that for the contract. So that brought us,
So those empty positions were not budgeted for then, in FY '24? So they're not empty positions because they weren't in the budget?
they weren't funded.
Right.
Well, they weren't budgeted for. Yeah, so yeah, they weren't funded.
Right, not.
Yeah, okay. So we don't have 3 current 5 empty positions, because those aren't in the budget. They're proposed for FY '25,
Correct,
but so current staffing, those 5 wouldn't be there.
correct.
We do have an empty, I thought we did have an empty patrol position at the very least that we did fund last year.
Yes.
Maybe
taken-
1 or.
I thought we did, yeah.
Yeah,
We had
Yeah, I
taken
thought
some
so.
off of the.
but we left at least 2
There
spaces,
was-
and I
yeah.
think you had
Yeah,
filled
that-
1, so
I
there were
thought
2 patrol
we were
officers
like
that.
6, and
I think there were 6
we took 4
open
to pay
positions
for
that were
the.
budgeted for.
We
We
took 3.
took 3 and did not
And left.
budget them, and then you filled 1, and there's 1 open.
I think, we could take a quick review of that. I know I don't have access to
Is that right,
last year,
Andrew?
but right now.
The new ones were out.
All right,
Or old.
last year's. I thought there were 2 that were filled and 1 was open. Oh, yeah. So these are the ones in question. There were 5 patrol positions. 3 of them we took. 1 was filled at budget time and 1 was open at budget time. I think the net effect was we're putting 1 back in now, based on my counts.
What about the sergeant and the lieutenant?
Lines in yellow, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so the yellow ones were the ones that we cut, because they don't have any,
Oh,
the salaries are zeroed out.
So the yellow were cut, the blue were empty essentially at this time last year.
Right.
In the budget process, but were filled.
Correct.
Okay. So we had left 3 positions that were empty, we filled those 3 positions. You're looking to bring back the 5 positions.
Correct.
And hoping that we can fund them.
Yes.
Does that cover it? Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Chief.
Oh, of course. So under capital expenditure requests, we're still waiting for the 3 police cruisers that we received a capital expenditure request for last year. Still in the process of ordering those cruisers, still supply chain delays.
Just gonna say, we talked to the fire department and getting new vehicles, which obviously a police cruiser is not quite the same extent as a fire engine, but I'm guessing getting them is taking longer than.
It's been tough. We just received the 2 that we had capital expenditure funding for the year before, a few months back, so it's getting better, but the delays continue. New request for this year, obviously, those positions that I referred to earlier. I'm also requesting funding for 3 police cadet positions. Additionally added to the budget this year is our regional dispatch fee, part of being in the regional dispatch. And then we'll also be seeking a capital expenditure for the next fiscal year for 2 additional police cruisers.
So you're looking to bring back the positions that were cut last year, plus 3 more on top of that?
Plus 3 police cadets, so it's a new position. And I included, if you flip forward in that packet I provided you, there's a detailed explanation of, it's about 3 pages farther down, what the cadet program will
Can you give
enable
an
us to do.
overview of that?
Does this replace what used to be the permanent intermittent type program, sort of your recruit staff where you?
No, so these aren't,
Auxiliary is what you're thinking.
No, permanent intermittents was sort of, that was your bench squad. They already went through sort of civil service, and if you had hired them, they were typically the next ones to become when a full-time slot opened. Auxiliary and special police were slightly different. They weren't necessarily on the list of civil service, and they could never move up.
so when we went to regional dispatch, we lost 2 of our full-time dispatchers. So we still need somebody to work the front desk at the police station, for walk-in reports in case there's medical emergencies, things of that nature. So onboarding cadets, we're gonna primarily use them to staff the desk on the day shift and the evening shift, and then what that will do is it'll free up the officers who are currently working the desk to work the road, and in some cases, I'll be able to free up an officer from one shift and place him to another shift, or place that officer into a specialty position that we currently have vacant. So, and a summary of the cadet program is generally, these are individuals between the ages of 18 and 23. We have a little bit more flexibility because we'll be coming out of civil service. And basically, they're young people that are interested in a career in law enforcement. They're either attending college or just finished attending college, and you hire them. They go through basically the same process as a police officer. There's a background check, there's a physical check, medical, psychological, oral board interview, drug screening. They'll have to take the same PT test the police officer takes. And what they'll do is, we anticipate they'll staff the front desk, assist with answering the phone, communicating with the public, taking minor reports, assisting officers with report preparation. They'll be CPR and first aid trained to assist those folks that come to the police station if they have some sort of medical issue. They'll assist our administrative staff with clerical duties, filing and records keeping. They'll also help out with monitoring and assisting with detainees. They'll assist officers with community events and with our accreditation compliance. So what they do is, in essence, they're a support service for the officers in the department, but they also provide you with a pool of viable candidates if you want to hire in the future. Basically, you get to take the candidate for a test drive,
Yes.
and if you have a quality candidate, after a year or so, when you have an opening, you have somebody you can plug right into that opening, and you can forego that cumbersome hiring process.
And you need 3 because of shifts?
Well, if I get 3, I can place one. We have a day shift, an evening shift, and a day relief. And what I would do is I'd staff a person on the day shift. On the 2 days that that shift is off, the cadet on the day relief would work those 2 days, and then on the 2 days that the relief shifts, evenings are off, they'd work those 2 days, and then there would be a cadet on the evening shift. So basically, those 3 cadets would give me 7-day-a-week coverage on the day shift and the evening shift.
Yeah.
I still plan on staffing the department with a police officer at night, just because it's, you get a lot of curious calls at night. So you need an officer there. Plus,
Yeah.
there are additional staff at the PD during the day shift and the evening shift to assist the cadets if something of that nature comes in.
And this would free up how many officers? One?
It would free up three.
Three?
Yeah, if you take a look
Did
at,
they fill those 3 positions already?
if you take a look at, I provided there's a current staffing chart that breaks down the patrol positions. And you can see that currently, we still don't have enough personnel to staff a traffic division or staff our detective division. I anticipate that if we can hire these 3 cadets with the other officers that I'm requesting funding for, I will be able to fund, I'll be able to staff a detective this upcoming year, staff an officer full-time dedicated to traffic enforcement, and then I want to create a community services unit and staff that with an officer and a sergeant.
When I met with you, you had said that the biggest complaint that you get is traffic.
Traffic, it's the #1 complaint.
Speeding, or is that mainly the,
Yeah, myriad, whether it's cars speeding down the road, parking illegally, not stopping at the stop signs. It runs the gamut.
Yeah, we get them at town hall too, constantly, and that's kind of been the biggest thing. Route 18
Yeah.
is probably the #1 Shar
Complaint.
Summer Street.
What was the second one? What?
Well, the-
Oh, Shaw.
Yeah, it's a little, and that's more a traffic light issue, and then that sort of weird Washington Street
Yeah.
intersection.
So I just spoke about it a moment ago, that community services unit, that unit will be dedicated to following up on domestic violence calls that we have, calls that involve individuals experiencing a mental health crisis, and those individuals that suffer from substance use disorders. We're hoping with the grant, we can get another grant for an embedded clinician, partner that embedded clinician with those officers assigned to the community services unit, and they will follow up on those patrol calls, and their job is to provide and guide and assist those individuals and those families experiencing those crises with obtaining the services and support they need to deal with those kind of issues, and basically filter those calls out of the patrol division and free our officers up to address some of the other community's needs.
and then that cuts down on the issues that you have for 911 calls for domestic violence and mental health issues.
Repeat responses
Right.
to the same houses for the same issues.
Because they get the services they need, so you're not getting the
Correct.
911 calls.
Yep, and we filter them out of the patrol service calls. It's worked quite effectively in the previous community I worked at. They have what they call a family services unit, and it's basically the same thing, and it works quite well.
One of the grants was a mental health clinician's co-response call.
Yes,
Where does that mental health clinician reside? In what budget, or are you paying some outside service for that?
no, so the services for the embedded clinician would be funded through a grant, through the grant.
For how many years?
It's, you start off with a certain amount, and then depending on the call volume and your future requests, you may get increased grant monies. So in the beginning, you'd start off typically with like 1 day a week
Yeah.
to cover that clinician, and then depending on the call volume and other factors, when you reapply for the grant, you might receive additional funding for 2 or 3 days, or maybe even a full-time embedded clinician.
But that clinician is not in your staffing plan
No,
right now?
no, not right now. So after that, I just provided a couple of staffing charts to show you folks what requests I'll be asking for in the future. It covers all the way up through FY 2027. Just some staffing charts for the department. Give you a little bit of an idea of anticipating what I'll be requesting in the next couple of years.
So if I'm a candidate, if I'm a cadet, and I look at this, am I looking at saying I'm gonna be on staff in 12, 24 months, if everything were to go well?
If you were a quality candidate and you were doing a great job, yeah, the anticipation would be that we would just onboard you right away.
But will we have the budget for it?
Well,
So we could start this cadet program, and we could have outstanding candidates, but if we don't have it built into the budget,
Well, people will, I mean, eventually people are gonna move up, people are gonna retire. I mean, positions will open.
through
They-
natural
yeah.
attrition.
So they may not open as quickly.
But
as-
also, isn't it, like, I think it's experience for kind of that age group, right? If they're going to college or if they're interested in, so they can get the experience as a cadet, and then if we don't have the position to hire them, they could go to another
Right.
town and have that experience to put on their resume.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully.
What-
stay.
Right.
But yeah,
Hopefully
certainly
we'll be able
people, other people, things will happen, positions will open, they always do. But will enough open,
Yeah.
you know, will they all be quality guys that at some point that the chief would wanna move up to? That may not be the case either, but we don't.
What kind of training costs are there for the cadet program? Is it mostly just sort of on the job and?
It would be, the CPR and first aid would be done in-house, we have
Yeah.
instructors for that. And the rest of the training would be basically in-house.
Okay, all right, so you're not, it's not like you're investing $5,000 to get these cadets up to speed, and then a year later, they go to Whitman because there's an opening there.
No, there will be a cost associated with the hiring process.
Yeah,
You know, with the medical evaluation and then psychological evaluation, that'll come with a cost.
Not like when we're training.
not like you're training an officer.
No,
the
there's not a
academy
police
and then
academy
they
cost.
Go to another
That's what I'm
town and we
trying to-
paid for that town to have,
Right,
right,
yeah.
yeah, no,
Exactly.
not like that.
Yeah.
So ballpark, what would the training cost be for a cadet? And I would assume that's worked into this budget?
It is not. It is not. I would guesstimate probably $6,000 to $7,000 per cadet. Get them totally up and running.
Okay.
Well, if we gotta put the cadets in, we gotta put that money in
Right.
too. You can't have one without
Right.
the other.
Well, the cost savings comes from the overtime reduction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not
So that's-
making a case one way or the other, but you gotta put all the costs in.
Would you like to dive right into the budget at this point?
Yeah. Yeah, let's dive right into the budget.
So we don't have a lot of fees. Basically down to two, which is our detail administration fee, which has brought in approximately $16,000. And then our pistol permit fee, which has brought in $3,675. I am proposing a warrant article to cover a new fee. It's basically a false alarm fee for the businesses and residents in town that have these repeat false alarms, whether they're burglar alarms or house alarms, that we have to respond to over and over and over. So that should bring in a little bit of money. I couldn't give you a ballpark estimate, but we do have, there are several businesses in town that we respond to quite frequently because of false alarms, and it just ties up the offices. So this will This will incentivize those businesses to get those alarm systems fixed and,
Tightened up.
yeah, exactly.
What we really want is to not have the false alarms.
Exactly.
So
Would that be a revolving account?
that was gonna be my question too.
They'll,
So
I
what's the,
don't believe
what's
it would just go into the general.
what would the article?
It would go into the general, probably a general bylaw,
Okay.
general bylaws just
So
stating.
more of a bylaw than setting up a fund
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the fees to go into. Okay.
Oh. How do we enforce it?
Well, when he gets multiple calls, the chief will write a letter
So
with a fine, I would assume.
eventually, if you have a business that isn't paying the fee, they get put on a do not respond list.
They also won't get their business licenses renewed, or if they have any other sort of
And that's why I just
license
wanted to see if
that
there was
they're
some, if there's a way
required
for us to have
before-
some teeth to it, so that,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you would like me to cover next, just the salaries and expenses portion. Or if you have any more questions about
Do we have questions of
the overall
salary
personnel.
side?
Salary.
Okay.
The head count, that's the question. right?
What's that,
It's
sir?
the head count, that's the question, we already covered that.
Yeah.
So looking at the accounts under the salaries, there's a requested increase, 6.2% this year. And that covers, you can see the first line item is police salaries. A lot of that is contract-driven. That also includes the $150,000 requested for the cadets. The rest of the items there, overtime, education incentive, shift differential, holidays, generally contract-driven. The overtime's an estimate based on the hiring of the 3 additional officers. The rest of those costs are basically estimates of what it would cost contractually to onboard 3 new officers, what those cost increased would be amongst the various line items.
If we were looking at the salaries, what's the, just the contractual obligation increase for this year, from last year to this year? Of that number? the
Would you say there's
two-
about 150,000 less under that 193?
Yes.
And this was the final year of that 3-year contract, and it was very front-end loaded. So this year, the increase is a lot less. Plus, last year, we had a retro on
So,
it as
I
well.
mean, there's 6 new positions in there. So how do you get 6 positions and only 193 increase? That's great, I mean, if it is in there, but it seems like it's something askew.
Andrew, are the positions included in the salary line?
So what that includes is these, let's see. I count 8 sergeants, 19 patrol, and 3 cadets. And yeah, so that's all good. It also includes the lieutenant and deputy chief.
Which those were budgeted for.
And
Maybe, I don't know.
I think what's happening is that there's just a change in the mix of the number of positions. So you're just like, you're giving people promotions instead of really creating more. The bulk of it is the cadets. They're 150,000 or 50K each, based on my counts.
Right, but what's the contractual obligation for the increase from, there has to be an increase.
I mean, we're only adding 3 patrol?
No, he means I
Oh.
think.
Yeah,
The
yeah, 'cause-
contract, the third year
if
of the
we-
contract, the percent increase, what was this year's percent increase in that third
So
year?
there isn't just a percent increase.
Because
So
it's got the
there's,
steps.
there's a COLA, there's a step, but there was also increases depending on level of education,
Right.
increases on night differential. So everything had an increase because those things hadn't changed over the years. So year one of it, say you had, the night differential shift went from 2%. Year two, it was an additional percent. So to say that there was, I think Andrew can probably,
So Andrew, the impact, so, right, well,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
impact
Paul's
to this
question,
year's.
that's not my question.
okay. What was yours?
Well, let's finish Paul.
Okay.
Just quickly, it looks like 2.3% for the last year of the contract, all in.
That would be 90,000.
Right. So it's taking out 150 for the cadets and the rest is contractual.
Right, that's more than 193. And there's no 3 officer positions. I thought we said we're adding 3 officer positions too. But maybe we're not. Maybe that's what,
Right,
Because
I think it's more shuffling around
You won't,
positions within the,
you won't see the increase in the number of officers because of the promotions.
right.
So if you added 3, we're actually adding a lieutenant and we're adding a sergeant, so it would knock down to 1. On paper, you would see 1 additional officer.
okay,
So if you look, total positions, these are just my
Yeah.
counts.
yeah.
For 24, we have 29. For 25, we also have 29, but they're higher ranked. So it's not as big of a jump. You're just
Okay,
promoting
all right.
people.
That's different than what I
That
understood, and
that helps.
maybe everyone
Yeah.
else got it, but,
No, Chris, I was with
that's why
you.
we should have
That-
started with
that-
the highlights.
That slide helps me.
yeah.
To
that's-
understand.
That's a big help, thank you. And I feel a lot better about it, yeah.
Also,
I was thinking, wow,
we'll still verify these numbers, but
yes, okay, good.
It's
No,
the mix
it's a much better
positions.
story.
So I do want to go back to either Chris, I think it was Chris's point, where the 90,000 for the contractual and the 150 for the 3 cadets does not add up to 193. That's more like 240.
I was taking the total salary and
Okay.
removing the 150.
Okay. So I think for what we were saying, though, the top line, their police salaries, the
193.
193 in column N, that, and saying if we're adding 150 for 3 cadets, that only leaves 43,370 for contractual increases in salary for this year.
Comes out to be 1.4%. I'll double check these.
Okay.
Which the COLA was 1%, and then I think we had a
Half,
point,
right?
0.25% in January, so. And we probably had maxed out on the other incentives that were in there, so that might not be far off. It might not be off at all.
Yeah. The contract was front-loaded, so.
Yep.
Good.
Yep. Overtime, one of the things I was looking at these numbers, the budgeted and actuals are, with the exception of FY '21, are way off from each other. Like we're spending way more than the budgeted amounts. And I know you haven't been here the whole time for those,
Yeah.
but.
No, so far, I don't have a breakdown of the overtime, but so far as of November 1st, we were right on target with our expenditures for salaries, which included the overtime.
I mean, in the past, they've had a lot of vacancies.
Yes.
So, it's-
Backfilling.
yeah.
Yep. So
The
are we
overtime
better
will be high,
with
but-
that right now, as we stand?
Yes, one of the We have 2 day shifts, does 4 days and then overlaps. There's another day shift that does 4 days. On that overlap day, there are 4 officers on, so 2 officers could take that day off and it doesn't cost you any overtime. Same thing on the evening shift, we have an extra officer on the evening shift, so before you incur any overtime cost in the evening shift, at least 2 officers have to take the night off, so,
Okay.
yeah. So that's helped us decrease.
Nice.
Is that a new way of doing it? Would that overlap?
With the platoon schedule, yeah, that was something we put into place about 2 years ago, shortly after I got here.
Yeah, you needed some more bodies to do it.
We're filling them out.
You
Definitely
did,
helps.
you got them.
And your retention rate at this point?
We haven't lost anybody voluntarily this year.
So no one's looking to transfer?
We haven't had any transfer requests come by my desk.
Good to hear.
You know, was it last year or earlier this year, we had to transfer in?
Yeah, we did have one transfer in, an officer that left lateral back. We had, since I've joined the PD, we did have an officer leave and transfer to East Providence PD, I believe it was. He had family down there. And then we had another officer leave and go to the state police.
And those are,
You cannot
Not-
compete with this.
no,
station.
those are not ones that you're,
It's-
that's not like leaving to go to, say, Hingham.
We
So,
don't have helicopter and.
Yeah, right.
Next year, it's on next year's capital.
But so we're in a
It's
better
like-
position with
it's
what
like-
we're paying at this point, and we're better in line with the other communities of similar.
Much better.
definitely good to hear. It's
It was a
been a challenge for years.
challenging road, but we made it.
Glad to hear that.
Any other questions regarding the salary accounts?
Sarah, anything?
No.
All right.
So jumping down to the expense accounts, everything is level funded with the exception of, you can see in the bottom, we have the regional dispatch fee. It cost us just under $93,000.
Yep. First time that's coming on.
Yes, yeah, it's
And
new
we
for
talked
this
about
year.
that with police, not police,
Fire,
with fire
yeah.
as well, so.
And it does
I
increase.
liked the
year.
time where we weren't paying for that.
Yeah, we all
When
did.
it was new and
We all
it was
did.
a,
Where you guys hopping on board meant fire didn't have to pay either, that was nice.
yeah.
Free.
I'm sure Holbrook didn't like that as much, but we.
Well, they got
had
paid.
to- Yeah,
Oh,
they had
They
to
got
get
paid.
rolling.
The state paid them.
Yeah.
Oh,
It all comes through a state 911.
So we were
Matter of fact, the
just-
state's
we were
still
just paying it
paying the
different.
difference.
It's like buying a new car and you get the first 3 payments free.
yes,
They're in the 4th payment, so.
yep, exactly.
The upside to it is we have one more year in the contract, and then we get to renegotiate all over again. So,
Can we keep
they've been a great
negotiating-
partner.
Can we keep negotiating for the state to pay?
Yeah, actually, that's what, basically, they reapply for their 911 grant
Yep.
also, and they, again, will probably get a big benefit out of it in the new fire station DPW project, but hopefully they'll also, reduce the cost somewhat for us. We'll never see zero again, but hopefully they'll help subsidize the first.
Speaking as also a Massachusetts state taxpayer, can you negotiate for some other state to pay?
You had come from a different community that, I don't think they were regionalized on their dispatch. Do you find this to be
Effective?
effective
It's
system?
been an adjustment. Holbrook's taken on a bunch of different communities, and they're growing at an exponential rate. So they've had to onboard a bunch of new folks, which comes with a learning curve. So we've had our bumps and our hiccups, but over the course of the past couple of years, it's gotten much better. And it's still gonna take some time, but we'll get there. It's been different.
Yeah.
A different experience for me. My previous agency, they still have in-house dispatches, so there's pros and cons to
yeah, there's definitely a cost savings, for sure.
To your point of going to another state, the E911 grant actually is money that comes from a surcharge that we all pay on our cell phones.
Yeah.
And that's,
Covers the 911.
covers the grant, and there's a good amount of it that's funding all of these call centers or offset, helping to pay for them.
Well, I'm glad to know that one of those fees that I
It
save
actually
on my
goes to
cell
something that
phone
we can
goes
use.
to something that is definitely beneficial.
The only other request under the expense line items were an increase for the travel budget and for dues and fees. The dues and fees increase is $1,000. It's associated to a new fee associated with accreditation maintenance. They want us to switch to another software program. And then with the travel fees, we've been sending a lot of our, especially our supervisors, to leadership training, and a lot of that is either out of state or it requires a bit of travel, so help defray those costs.
I throw this a general question to anybody on the panel up there, but this came up last week when we were talking at health, is when you're looking at the budget, do we look at actuals? Because it feels like if we don't look at the trends of what we're actually, because you said, we're just level funding, I think we might have the term used, but it was like, but if you're all consistently under on the actual, why do we continue to fund it at a higher amount? Because like I'll look at, building repairs and maintenance, IT service and equipment, other purchases, services, and unclassified expenses. If we took the 4 prior year actuals, compared to that, it's like $35,000 less. On a $60 million budget, I know it doesn't sound like, but we're $1.9 million over right now. So anything helps. Like, and that happened last week with the Board of Health on the trash. Like, average 4 years was like $1.3 million, and we're budgeting 1.6. I don't get it.
Just if you're looking at these totals, prior years still have like heating and fuel and postage in them. So you can't just take the full.
I'm looking at a line item.
Like radio, for instance. Year-to-date actual, 3,000. The budget's 19.5. Now, that could be delays, but, that's only 16,000, but you do 3 16,000s, you get one of your cadets.
Right.
And we don't end up saying, oh, you're gonna take out one of those cadets, which you can't do because you need all 3, because,
Yeah. It's not that one's not there.
yeah, right. I
So-
think that's what you're saying,
Yeah.
is, it's not that we're not gonna spend the money, but
Right,
if we're not gonna spend it here, we can spend it on something that you really need,
right.
that
Yeah,
won't get cut.
Yeah, like that IT service and equipment, we budgeted at 65. If you look at the 4 previous, the average is $51,000. That's the average. So, and we're budgeting for 65, that's 14,000. That could go to something else. I'm not trying to cut.
But if you look at that, the FY '21 brings the average down. That's the only year that we actually spent under what we budgeted.
Right, but that's also something that we control. We should know what is gonna go in there. Because that would be my question then, it's like, okay, IT service and equipment, what are you gonna spend, what are you gonna, $65,000, how's that gonna be spent? Do we know? And I'm just saying, like, and again, I'm not trying to cut your budget, I'm just saying, do we shift it to something else? Because it just feels like, well, that's what we had last year, so we're just gonna level fund it.
Right.
And I wonder too if there's some element of fear if I drop it down, I can't increase it the following year. I mean, in general, I don't mean specifically to one department or another, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
well, I
it's
mean, last week, they said they actually had on the slide a buffer. I think, was that the buffer?
It's the word that she used, yes.
It was on the slide, too. Yeah.
However, this-
About the buffer.
Everybody's heard about
Avoiding
that.
that word at all costs.
I don't think
It's
you want
now
to hear it
like,
again.
four-letter word.
Yeah.
Michael Buffer.
Yeah.
No, good points, and I think it's something we should all go back and take a look at.
One thing to add is that, one thing we try to do is budget conservatively, because that's how we generate free cash. We get free cash when revenues are better than what we expect, and when expenses are lower than we expect. So if we start tightening this,
We're less
we'll
conservative.
have less free cash.
Which I'm not opposed to, but then we also have to be a lot more accurate on our revenue and go much higher and less conservative. And then we have to dedicate a good portion of the budget towards capital on a yearly basis. So at some point, you have to decide which way. You
And
have to go one way or the other. Can't be both.
I think to Paul's point, he's not necessarily looking to decrease the total amount, he's looking to make sure that we're
It's accurate.
trying to be
Makes sense.
accurate line to line within the budget and know, do we actually need what we're saying we need here?
Right.
So,
Fair enough.
like if, for example, building maintenance and repair, we were at budgeting 15,000 every year and we were coming in at like 3,000 every single year, we would say, well, we're not budgeting right for that.
Yeah, or no, we're
Or
not
if we
spending
were
right, 'cause
budgeting
that's a
50,
20-something-year-old
if we were
building almost.
budgeting 15,000 and we were coming in at 25,000 spent every year, we also wouldn't be budgeting right and we would need to adjust for that.
Right.
So,
He is doing some of the toilets over next year. At 10 grand a whack.
12 plus. It's expensive.
yep.
But we'll get to
Any
that point.
anybody have other questions on expense lines?
Nope.
Warrant articles? I know we already mentioned the false alarm.
So it's gonna be false alarm, and the other warrant article is the removal from civil service.
What are we,
Which, I don't know if that's how that's gonna be worded yet. I think it's more of a charter change we
I was
decided
gonna
last
say,
year.
I know when it has come up in previous years' discussions.
Every year.
There was debate as to whether it was a warrant article or something else that needed to be
Yeah, I think it's a little, I
done,
think the warrant
how it
article,
would be done.
when
and
we
stuff,
met,
so.
and I think you were with us last year, maybe it was sort of at the last minute when we had, Greg Corvo had looked it up, and it's referred to in the charter. So we have to do.
We have to make a
And
charter.
this is a year that actually Charter Review does have, they're making their recommendation, so that will be one of the recommendations, is to amend it out of the charter. So whether we additionally have to do something beyond it, maybe, there may be, so there may be 2 articles, I don't know.
Is this something that you anticipate doing some education around? Do you think there's going to be any resistance to?
The fire department, I mean, the fire department, we're not doing it for it, and the police department bargained it as part of that 3-year agreement that we're paying the last year of. That was
They bargained
out of civil service.
removing civil service. Okay.
So it's not something that they're
It's not
against.
something that there will be a fight from within.
Right, I'm just wondering, is
About, but I do know that there will be people in town who will question it.
Well, I mean, we
so-
always do a education and review and videos on all of our warrant articles, so
Yep.
absolutely we'll do on that one as well.
So while we're on video, what exactly would be the replacement for civil service?
That actually has yet to be bargained, the exact, but it would mimic civil service. There would be some sort of a exam, I'm assuming.
There are several different companies out there that assist non-civil service departments with preparation of their own exams and assessment centers and announcements for those tests and those assessments and grading analysis.
there a fee compared to
Yeah, there-
fees for civil service?
There would still be a fee, and it would be probably comparable.
Comparable fees.
There'd still be, I think we'd have some preferences, there'd be preference somehow, or adjustments on the score for veteran status and local status, I guess. So, I mean, a lot of the things that come out of, that civil service does it for them would be in there. We just would have a lot more control over it.
Right.
The major benefit.
Which is what has been argued for over the years that I've been on the
Yeah.
committee,
Yeah.
that the overriding argument for coming out of civil service has always been us having more control over the process. Not that there are problems per se with civil service.
No, there
but
is
that it-
problems per se
There
with
could
civil
be.
service.
I'm
and
just
there's
saying, from
very
what-
big problems.
From what I have understood, us
Uh,
having more control as opposed to civil service having more dictating what we have to do has been the argument in favor of coming out of that, so.
Provides us more opportunity, more flexibility.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. And there's no downside to anybody who's currently on the force and hired under civil service, their status does not change. They will always have that civil
Right.
service status.
Okay. Question on that is surrounding communities, are there both civil service and not civil service around us? Do you know?
The trend right now is a lot of communities are coming out of civil service. Civil service is working on a hybrid type program to try to keep
Try to
civil service
survive.
going.
They're working feverishly.
I can't off the top of my head think who is non-civil service around us. But the benefit for us is,
Plimpton, for sure.
yeah, some of the, when you get a little farther south, the benefit is once we come out, we will be able to hire, take lateral transfers.
Hmm.
They can come from any department, civil service or non-civil service. Currently, we can only take lateral transfers from a civil
From
service
the civil
department.
service, okay.
So we'll have a wider pool.
Because, and that saves you money, right? If you get a lateral transfer, they've already been through the academy, they're trained, and you can widen the pool of lateral transfers that you can accept, because you can accept civil service or non-civil service.
We're
right?
hoping to do the exact opposite of what's been happening for years and start bringing people with experience in
Yeah,
instead of sending them out.
perfect.
We'd like that.
Can I just say, so I appreciate the presentation tonight, and the staffing plan going forward looks great. So Scott, this is a question for you. So I'm looking at the budget for the police this year, and when we started this process, it was gonna be level service. So how does that work with make level service budget, but we're adding these things in the police? I'm not saying that chief doesn't need it, but like, how do we?
So when we start when we start the budget process and reach out to the department heads, we always start off with, we're looking for level service. As long as I've been in municipal government, I don't know that anybody's ever said, go ahead and put whatever you want into your budget. And that's, I think, just maybe prior to me starting in maybe 15, 20 years ago, they did that. But so we start off with that. And we've had years where we've said, we need to see 3% reductions. And I don't know if you were on the board, but I think some of you guys were on the board. And when I made, all the department heads or requested that they actually show us a 3% reduction and give us a narrative on how that's going to affect services. But what I did tell the department heads this year was, we're looking for a level service budget. However, if there's something that you really think that the community needs, put it into your budget, because we have to have that conversation. You guys have to hear it, and the community needs to hear it. So although we're not looking to enhance programming or add new programming, because it is a tight budget year, but if there is something that is absolutely a necessity, bring it forward and let us know about it. If we can find a way to do it, then that's great, if everybody's on board with it. Much like the town planner last year, where, again, it was mostly we were looking for level service, but here was something that we knew we needed, we wanted, or that the community decided we wanted, and it was important enough to bring it forward again. you'll see it in a couple of the departments that are looking, Department of Public Works, again, looking to add laborers. Are they really enhancing their services? No, they're trying to continue with the services that they have, just in a more efficient manner. We keep piling things on for them to do, and, you know, we need to give them the support to do it. In this particular instance with the chief, I think, yeah, the cadet program is a different program. But it's very worthwhile and certainly worth listening to. So that's, yeah, you know, level service, basically, yeah, we're typically not looking for more programs or to add programs, but on the other hand, I do, at least on this first run, when everybody presents their first budget to me, I want to know. And I think you guys want to know too. So that's why you see it in there. And yeah, unfortunately, like we say, we start looking at these things and we say, well, we can't. Well, then we start tightening things up too, and we start seeing things that, well, maybe if we tighten up on this line item, we can do it. Maybe if we take out a buffer in the trash area, we can
Yeah.
do something. Which is a contract that we haven't finished negotiating yet, so that's why there's a bit of play in that too, so.
Okay. I appreciate the explanation, because that's where I struggle with trying to understand level service. And then, you know, see the other departments come in, and then we see this, and it's like, how do we,
That's right.
yeah, so I appreciate the explanation, thank you.
Although I will say too, that there's been, like years ago, and over different years, over different administration, sometimes they'd be instructed to only, we wouldn't hear stuff that maybe we should kind of get a heads up about, like that they needed, because by the time it got to us, the budget would be so drastically different or changed. But conversely, they'd come in with a whole, this is what we're doing, you know, kind of a pie in the sky, and then it would just get cut and cut and cut and cut over weeks of meetings. So I do feel like this is like a kind of a good,
Yeah, and that's what the
Middle
schools
ground.
have done too, because they come and say this,
Right,
and
and then-
this is what we're
Yeah.
not, we do need, but we're not including.
yeah.
And when we have our preliminary meetings, Andrew and I will meet with the department heads and run by this, we will tell them, you know, I'm glad you put it in there. I don't want at any particular time it to be the first time for you to hear it, that it's at a crisis mode too, that we can't continue to provide the services, we just can't do it because we don't have enough this or whatever. So it may not happen this year for anybody, but you'll hear it again next year, and you'll hear it again the year after, and it'll never be sort of the first time again that you hear that we really need this program or a program
Yep.
or another something.
Yeah, something else? One of the questions I ask every year is, what are we doing for the mental health of our officers?
So we have joined up with Metrolec, the peer support unit. Currently, I have 2 of my officers assigned to that unit. And when we have critical incidents that occur at the, in town, whether it's train accident or fatal motor vehicle accident, we'll reach out to that peer support unit and have their folks come in and do a debriefing afterwards with everybody, make sure our folks are okay, and then follow up with them afterwards with a list of resources, mental health resources available to them. And one of those other grants that I spoke of earlier, we're still working on that to get, ideally, to get a mental health clinician in once a year to speak with the officers one-on-one. That's something that's just being discussed now. But
Nice.
I'd just like to do a shout out to your officers, because I was at the senior center last Thursday for the luncheon, and they came in and they stayed a while. It's like, that was just outstanding. Like, that's just outstanding policing, just being part of the community. So thank you to the officers, and thank you for allowing them to do that. I think it was
good
great.
Good group of officers there.
Yeah.
On those lines, I see them at the schools frequently, and they do a great job in there with the kids, so.
Love that positive feedback.
Yeah.
Anyone have anything else for Chief?
No?
Thank you.
Chief, thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Happy holidays.
Thank you very
too.
much.
Chief, please take a cupcake or a cookie on the way.
No, no way, spoil my time.
These are good.
No, it's on camera, too. Thank you very much. You have a good night.
Thank you very much for your time.
Moving on to the rest of the agenda items. Next item is discussion and vote on meeting minutes. We haven't had any minutes distributed because Paul hasn't provided any to us. So we have nothing to vote on. What was that?
So did Danielle not get minutes, or?
I don't know for
They
sure.
did get response
I
from
didn't hear from
Kelly
him, but I
Hensey.
didn't see any sent out to the rest of us, so. Does anyone have any liaison reports? Nope. There's nobody over here. I keep expecting Greg to be there, so.
He'll be there.
There was no correspondence. Our next meeting is when? Our next meeting is January 10th. We've got
Couple
2
weeks
weeks
off.
off.
Nice. Wow.
Holiday break. I will see you all next year.
Were you asking for a motion?
I'm just telling you that I will see you next year. I didn't say I won't see you before
Have,
then.
can I just, have we scheduled the Council on Aging?
Not yet.
Okay, all right, because the 24th is,
Yeah.
we're trying to avoid the 24th.
That's right.
24th of December. We are definitely trying to avoid that.
There we go.
There we go.
Perfect,
Nice.
Andrew. In bold, too.
Excellent. So right now, we are scheduled for January 10th with DPW Recreation, which is part of the DPW, and Sewer, which is also part of the DPW.
Just keep it up.
Okay.
It's gonna be a big John Stone.
John and the family still.
And when do
That's a great
we,
job.
The employee benefits, does that fall under the
Treasurer.
treasurer? Okay.
Treasurer Tom. All right.
Nice little jump there.
In the benefit program?
Hmm.
Oh, you mean
In the budget for the, yeah.
yeah, it was a big hit this year.
Anyone have anything else to bring up? Motions?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you very much and have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and Happy New Year, everyone.